It's the Imperfect Gardener here, and we are looking at some tomatoes. I want to show you, like some people they talk about determinate, indeterminate. They talk about cutting back the suckers off of the plant, all this kind of thing. I'm going to show you what I'm doing this year, and I'm going to talk about what I've done in past years as well. I want to find a good one to show you. Oops, sorry, thumb in the picture. Oop, 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 oop. Okay, see, this is an example to me of what happens in nature right here, okay? When you get a tomato plant growing, and this is a best boy, it's called. Okay, you get this tomato plant growing. There he is. Stand back a little, all right? And I haven't put a cage around him yet. If there's no cage around this plant, you get these ones on the bottom that grow down like this. And what that's doing is, honestly, this thing wants to go down into the ground eventually and start some more roots going that way. But right now, it's helping hold this up. I mean, it's literally helping hold up the tomato plant by it's sending out these ones going down. Here's another one over here. This is going down. That's trying to help support the plant. Comes off of here, and it's shooting down, and it's going to hit the ground, and it's helping support the plant. Now, why we don't like that in a garden is we want to get the highest yield of tomatoes possible, and we want our plant to be really healthy. And these bottom leaves, they're going to get dirt on them when they're stuck in the dirt. Right now I haven't mulched around these or anything, and I need to keep this dirt off. As you can see, I went ahead and used a regular sprinkler last night, and there's dirt just splashed all over this baby. And that's not really good for it because it gets the diseases from the ground, get up into the leaves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be going ahead and putting these up with, putting some cages around the ones I haven't done yet to help hold them up. So I'm coming through and I'm cutting back all of the things that are sitting on the ground. And then what you have to decide is you got to make decisions for each plant. Okay? When I planted this particular one, it had this other piece growing right off it. And I was like, I planted it deep, and I'm like, I don't really want to cut that off because that is going to grow wonderful tomatoes for me. Right now what's happening is it's still pretty small, and this one's kind of overshadowing it. So I'm going to see how small it is and how tall this is. I'm going to wait a couple more weeks and see if that will get taller. I mean, it's probably got its own roots growing off it and everything. If it gets a little taller to catch up with this one, then I'm going to let it keep growing, and then I can cut back some of the smaller pieces off it. But I'm going to trim a little bit off the bottom right now, off of that. And then they talk about suckers. Okay, I'm going to talk about suckers for a minute. They say that this is your main branch right here, and this is your branch coming off, and this thing that grows right here in the middle is a sucker, and that you need to take that off. Well, you know what? You only need to take that off if you are growing your tomato tall as you can get it to be, all right? People cut those off because they don't want their tomato to bush out. They want their tomato to grow tall on these big, tall things. Well, guess what? I don't have to grow my tomatoes up. I have a big garden. Let me show you. I have space. And I have left space in between these tomato rows on purpose because this tomato plant will grow up, and it'll probably get, quite a bit taller. It could get 4 feet or higher. But the way that I do it is I leave those suckers on there because they're just more growth growing. And I then, after I put the tomato in a cage, like one of these ones, here's one that's in a cage right now. This cage isn't going to hold an indeterminate tomato all by itself, but it's a start. It starts growing up it. And what I do later is I just take a stake, like these ones over here. Ooh, don't get dizzy. The stakes I have for my pole beans. A stake like that or a similar kind of any kind. And I stick it right in here so that it goes through this outer top part of this. And I pull it kind of to one side so it's in there tight. Whichever way the tomato is trying to lean the wrong way, I pull it the other way. And that stake will help hold this up. And then I add more stakes. I do. I add more stakes if I need to. If I get a really good, what do they call them? They call it a sucker. If I get a really good one that's going off on the side, and some of these leaves are just going crazy and moving way out over here, then I take another pole and I stick it right here, and I can tie this tomato to it, and I could tie leaves from this tomato to it, and branches, and I'll end up, by the end, these tomatoes will be covering this entire area. They'll be running into each other. In between here, they'll just be running into each other. And I'll have tomatoes all over the place with these plants. Lots and lots of tomatoes. So, do you need to clip off those suckers? They say, oh, they're just taking from the main plant. No, they're not. They're taking it. I don't want mine to grow really, really tall. So make sure that when you listen to stuff on YouTube and you learn about things, think about what works best for you. I have space in my garden. I do not have to make my tomatoes grow to be 8 feet tall, my tomato plants, in order to get all the tomatoes I can out of them. I can let them sprawl outwards in both directions. I can even let them move into this center, in between the rows. I've left so much space that I can let them run in between the rows if I want to, and do great with them. So what am I going to do about this one? Where was I? Right here. What I am going to do is, I have in the past left it like this with no mulch. I am going to lay some fabric around this to try and keep this dirt from splashing up on here when it rains and stuff. Plus, I still water sometimes from above. That's what I got right now, so that's what I use. So what I am going to do is any that are touching the ground, I'm going to cut them off. But I'm not taking off this, what they call sucker, because that sucker is going to grow me a bunch of tomatoes. It's a piece of the plant. It's not going to hurt anything. It's going to grow more. Okay, if you want yours to grow up tall, 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 sure, take those off, but I don't. Okay, and I'm taking off anything that's close to the ground, all the way up. I'll have to decide about that sucker. Maybe I am going to take it off just because it's kind of low to the ground, but I'll give it a week and think about it. Any of the ones that are touching the ground are coming off. There's another one over here. It's touching the ground. That's coming off right now. And then... and I got these great pruning things for this. You just got to be careful what you get a hold of, because these babies will cut the whole, thing down. And then, like I said, I'm going to let this piece go, because I liked it when I planted it. I thought, that's so cool. It's a double stem going right away. And I'm going to let it grow, because it's going to grow tomatoes. Now, right now, I've got this up about, well, here's these. These are about 5-6 inches long. So I'm about 6 inches from the ground on the main stem before you're going to see any leaf, what do you call those, branches coming up. This one's only about 4 inches. It's not high enough, but I'm going to wait and see if it'll grow some more. If not, I'll cut it back. What the heck. And then I'm going to come through here and I'm going to pull off these weeds. And later I'm going to throw some, what do you call that stuff that I just said? Some fabric down that you normally put mulch on top of. I don't have to put mulch on top of it. I can put the fabric down just to keep the dirt off of these. So I'm going to try that this year. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going around and pruning them back. But I am leaving what they call suckers on here. But you see this one, here's another example of what nature does. Here you got, this started leaning this way. Let's back up so you can see it. There that plant is. It started leaning this way, and so it grew. These babies started growing down. And this is actually holding it up. This stem is holding that up. When I cut it off, it's going to start falling down more. However, I am going to stake it up, so I'm not worried about it. Okay, I'll stake that up. Now this one, it also had a little one growing off that I left. I'll decide. For now, I'm leaving it. See, it's not like potted tomatoes where I'm like, oh, there's not going to be enough nutrition for that. Sure there is. There's going to be lots of nutrients. I'm going to add some more compost in here every once in a while. I'm going to feed these plants like crazy. They can grow as big and wide as they want to. So that's the way I do it. I admit to being an imperfect gardener, but I also admit to having tons and tons of tomatoes that I can. And these are going to do fabulous this year. Like I said, the one thing I'm changing, I'm going to try to keep that dirt off them. And I'm also going to avoid watering them at night is the other thing that I used to do all the time. Water everything at night when it was dark out. And I found out that can bring diseases to your leaves and stuff too. I have spaced them out pretty well though. They have a lot of room. And they're going to grow. And they're going to be fabulous. So I've got some weeding to do. I got some pruning to do. That's it for me. That's what works for me. You have to find what works in your garden. You do not have to do it the way everybody else does it. And you know another reason? I don't know how to build a trellis that's 8 feet tall. I don't even know how. You know, I guess I could look it up. I do have this one trellis I put my cucumbers on, but that rope what I bought already like that, and I just put those things up. But that's about 5 feet. And some people are saying they grow their tomatoes, 10, 12 feet. Heck, I don't have time, 8 feet even. I don't have time to build something that high. So I'm not worried about it. I stake them up with the cage first, and then I bring stakes in, and I just keep adding stakes and tying up branches that try to fall to the ground, tie them up to the stake, and there you go. It keeps growing. So you go out there and you cut back your tomatoes the way you want them, not the way somebody else tells you to. And you might not like the way I do it either. But like I said, if you have a lot of space, I think this is the way to go. Have fun gardening. Perfect gardener. To show you, I thought if I get a little far away, you can see how I have taken and pruned the bottom of these tomatoes so that the leaves are up higher and than they would be normally, so that the leaves are not all touching the ground. This one I got real high, actually. That's not going to get a lot of splash on those leaves. I still need to put stuff down underneath them, but they're looking good. I'm really excited. I got them all pruned. This could also be a nice update for the sun scald, folks. Look at this. These are the tomatoes that had sun scald on them. They were all white on the leaves. These tomato plants look like they were going to die. Die, die, die. Look at this one. Huge. I mean, they are just taking off. So, all is well. Sun scald goes away. And this is how they look after I've pruned them. I need to weed still. But just a tip, I realized as I was pruning them, I was tempted to pull weeds out as I went along pruning. And then I realized, hello, you're touching the leaves with your dirty dirt from pulling out weeds. That's not working. So I stopped doing that, and I just pruned. Don't touch the dirt while you're pruning because you're getting all of your leaves. And then I'm going to come back a little later, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe I'll send one of my children out here and have them come through and just get the weeds out from around these. It's not really that hard to weed around tomato plants that are established like this. I mean, you just come in and ripping weeds out. So I'll get to it. But that's how they looked. I'm pruning them to go up enough that they're off the ground. And then, yes, I'm going to let them stretch out a little bit. I'm not pulling all of the suckers off. I like suckers to grow out sideways and to have become more of a bush rather than getting really tall. So that works for me. They still get tall, but they still bush out. Look at this poor little devil over there. What on earth happened to that? I look at it, I go, what happened to this thing? From my little sign over here, it looks like it's a beefsteak. Super beefsteak. And just look at it. It was falling down on the ground, see? Because I hadn't caged it at all. So now I'm putting it in a cage. But you know what? The leaves are going to turn upwards and it'll turn out all right. Looks a little funky now, but it'll turn out. Look, there's flowers. Whee! So anyway, got those pruned. One more job done. And I'm going to go take a break. And we'll weed some of these tomorrow, I think. I really need a break. I worked like so much yesterday in the garden. Even though there's more weeding to do, I need a break. So, have fun gardening.